You couldn't write this script if you tried. From the wooden spoon to a premiership shot, from heartbreaks and demons to redemption arcs, from Reynolds' boot to Hunt's return, slaying the storm curse. Every thread has led us here. And if the Broncos can pull this off, it won't just be a win, it'll be a fairy tale.
Old Skool Broncos,
G'day legends, welcome back to the Old Skool Broncos Podcast, the fans' point of view where we live and breathe the mighty Brisbane Broncos. Today isn't just about previewing a grand final, it's about telling the story, the arcs, the rises, the heartbreaks and the redemptions that have carried this club from the darkest day to the brink of excellence. So grab a beer, strap in, because we're going deep. Let's wind back to 2020. That was the year of the wooden spoon. Just 3 wins, 17 losses. For a club that had never finished last, it was humiliation. The Broncos, the pride of Queensland, were suddenly the laughing stock of the competition. Fans were shattered, sponsors were questioning, and the players themselves looked lost. Kevin Walters stepped in at the end of that season, and people laughed, said he wasn't the tactical mastermind, said he was too emotional. But Kevin knew the DNA of the club better than anyone. He didn't need a whiteboard, he just needed belief. And he started with culture, with bringing the old boys in, with telling the kids what it means to wear maroon and gold. 2021 was rocky, 14th spot, but you could see improvement. Then 2022, they pushed in the top 4 late in the season before falling away, growing pains. But by 2023, they were ready to play, and they did it all the way to the grand final. But the job wasn't done. The scars of that loss in 2023's grand final could have broken them. Instead, they built resilience. And with Madge Maguire brought in this year to add some steel, you've got a squad now that's not just talented, they're hardened. From spoon to contender in just a few years. That's not luck, that's leadership, that's belief, that's the Broncos' identity restored. Now let's talk about Adam Reynolds. Because if you want poetry, his story is pure rugby league theatre. Reno's story is almost too poetic. It has 2 parts. Unwanted from his beloved Rabbitohs, disillusioned he feels offers from other clubs in early 2021. Kevy Walters swoops in and gives Reno a look at the opportunity to take his skills elsewhere. From a club that was in a preliminary final every year, parting ways with their number 7, many thought this would be the end of Reynolds. But a move to the Sunshine State and being surrounded by a super talented young roster, we got to see the best of Reynolds. The guy unwanted will head to his 3rd grand final in 5 years and 2nd with the Broncos. If he wins this week, it underlines the mistake that the Rabbitohs made by moving him on. Then we look at the second part, the top and tail of the Panthers run. Back in 2021, grand final night at Suncorp Stadium, Reynolds, last game for the club, he had the kick to level the scores against Penrith in the dying minutes. He lines it up from the sideline. We're all holding our breath. He strikes it and it slides wide. Souths lose. That miss didn't just end South's season. It started a dynasty. Penrith went on to win that game and then the next 3 grand finals in a row. They became the modern day powerhouse, all off the back of that one moment. And who was at the heart of it? Reynolds, the man who missed. Fast forward to 2025, different jersey, different chapter, Broncos versus Panthers in the prelim final. Reynolds steps up for a kick in an eerily similar manner, but this time it sails through, dead straight, dead true. That kick gave Brisbane the lead. That kick ended Penrith's run. That kick closed the book on the consecutive premierships dynasty. One man, one boot, 2 moments in history, the first beginning an empire, the second tearing it down. And now Reynolds gets his chance to finish the fairy tale by lifting a premiership with Brisbane. Then there's Ben Hunt. And if this isn't a redemption, I don't know what is. Cast your mind back to 2015. All Queensland Grand Final, Broncos versus Cowboys. Hunt had been immense all season. One of our very toughest nails. But what's remembered? That drop. The kickoff in extra time, straight through the hands. Thurston kicks the winning field goal. Cowboys crowned premiers. That one play became his shadow. Every mention of Hunt came with that replay. Fans turned. Media piled on. It was brutal. Even Alfie had a crack on the team bus that night, deliberately tossing a beer to Hunt so that he'd drop it. A cheap laugh, but it summed up the place Hunt had to come back from. By 2017, he'd left Brisbane, off to the Dragons, and while the narrative was that he'd choked, what really happened is that he'd rebuilt himself. At the Dragons, he wore the criticism, he copped the boos, but he never gave up. Instead, he became one of the toughest halves in the game. He earned the trust of Billy Slater and Mal Meninga. He starred in Origin game, starred for Australia. He became the general of winning sides. And now, 10 years after that very night in 2015, he's back in Broncos colours, back in the grand final, one win away from rewriting history. If Ben Hunt lifts that trophy, that drop ball becomes nothing more than a setup for the greatest redemption arc rugby league has ever seen. But before the fairy tale can get to the final act, Brisbane had to face their biggest demon. 2023 Grand Final. 24-8 up with 20 minutes to go. Ezra Mam running riot, the trophy in our hands. Then, collapse. Cleary magic, Panthers comeback, Broncos heartbreak. That loss scarred the squad. You could see it in 2024. Those scars lingered. But here's the thing about scars. They don't just remind you of pain. They drive ambition, they drive redemption. And in 2025, preliminary final, the Broncos confronted the Panthers again. Down 14-0 at halftime, memories of that collapse came flooding back. This time, they didn't fold. They fought. They turned it around. Reynolds' composure, Walsh's brilliance, Stagg and Haas refusing to give in. They clawed back. They won 16-14. That wasn't just a prelim final win. That was closure. That was the ghost of 2023 finally laid to rest. And now here we are, the final chapter. The Melbourne Storm. One last beast to slay. Panthers ghost gone. We buried that in the prelim. 2015 scar, healed if Hunt wins. The wooden spoon, long behind us. But the Melbourne Storm, that's the final dragon. Since 2006, the rivalry has been one-way traffic. 40 games, 34 wins to Melbourne, just 6 for us. They've bullied us, embarrassed us, and dominated us. But late this year, in round 27, the tide turned. Brisbane beat Melbourne 30-14 for the first time in a while. The Broncos looked like they had their measure. And now, on Grand Final Day, we've got the chance to do it where it matters most, to beat Melbourne on the biggest stage of all, just like we did in 2006. To close the loop, to break the curse. If the Broncos win this, every demon gets slayed, every scar gets healed, and a new chapter begins. So here's where it all comes together. From spoon to contender, from Reynolds' boot to Hunt's redemption, from haunting collapse to exorcism, from 2 decades of Storm dominance to the chance to put a full stop on it all. Every single thread has led us here. And if the Broncos win, this won't be just a premiership. It'll be a story for the ages. The kind of story that future fans will tell. The kind of story that belongs to murals, in books, in documentaries, in highlight packages for decades. This is bigger than just another grand final. This is making a fairy tale. You couldn't script it any better if you tried. The arcs are all there. The scars, the redemption, the history, the belief. And now one game stands between the Broncos and one of the greatest stories in rugby league history. So let's ride this week together. Let's soak it in. And let's hope that come full time, we're living the fairy tale. And hopefully a fairy tale where everyone lived happily ever after. Thanks for tuning in. Hit subscribe, Drop your favourite Broncos memory in the comments, and I'll see you next time. This is the Old Skool Broncos Podcast. Let's go, Broncos.